Now, moving and buying a new home is like a dream for a lot of people. I'm obsessed with looking around show homes, but I just like nosy around them. But, imagine you can almost order your new home, can't you? If you get in at the right time, you can order your own floors and get the kitchen that you want and all the rest of it. However, a Greater Manchester MP has been saying that in many cases, buying a new house can turn into a bit of a nightmare. Now, it's the Stretford MP, Kate Green, that's been talking about this. And what she wants is greater protection for home buyers, because she's been getting inundated with complaints from people who've bought new houses, and they're blaming the housing developers, the people that build these properties. And so people living on one estate of new builds in Davyhulme have been telling us that they've spent years trying to get things sorted. So they've moved, they've paid all this money, they've moved in to this beautiful, shiny new home, and actually it's not been as beautiful and shiny as I first thought, has it, Matt?
No.
So walls have had to be replastered, and cracks have had to be filled in, and badly fitted kitchens and bathrooms have had to be fixed. And we've been kind of asking you this morning, when it comes to old houses versus new, which side of the fence would you go on? Alan in Warrington's just been on. He said, "Morning, Chelsea. Having lived in both an older house and now living in a new build, I think I'd always opt for an older one. With an older house, you tend to find that there were better quality products used during the build. Although in saying that, they can become a bit of a money pit, when things start to go wrong and you've got the upkeep." He said, "On the other hand, we now pay ground rent of £515 a year, but there's no maintenance on the house needed. We did have a few issues when we first moved in, but to the builder's credit, these were sorted out very, very quickly." Be keen to know what you think if you're listening now. Old house versus new house. If you've got any experience in this, send us a text 81333. Start your message with the word Manc, or you can give us a call 0800 218 2255. This is obviously happening, I imagine, in new build estates up and down Greater Manchester. But the one that we've kind of been looking at is this one in Davyhulme. What seems to have happened on this housing estate?
Okay, so these homes, like when you buy many new homes, they're bought off plan, which basically means you buy the house before it's even been built,
yes,
sign the contract, and then you get the keys later. But at the point where you get the keys, it's already yours. You can't sort of have a look round and say, "Oh, actually, it's not what I thought."
Yeah.
You've already bought and paid for it, effectively. There's an expectation, isn't there, with new builds, as you said, where they can be a bit of a safer bet than old houses.
Yeah, you think they're going to be perfect and it's all new.
Yeah, so fewer sort of hidden problems. You're not going to risk sort of getting in and then finding out 3 months later that it's all damp or something. You didn't realise about it. But a snagging list is common, and this is often sort of little problems like broken guttering or a bit of untidy tiling or something, which you get fixed pretty quickly by the developer, and they're sort of quite renowned for you find one or two small problems and they sort it out, and that's quite common. But in this instance and many others, according to Kate Green, it can be much worse. So I spoke to Lisa Abel. She bought one of these houses and she said she just had problem after problem.
You walk into a new build house and everything's done. You've got your kitchen, your fitted bathroom, your ensuite bedroom. All you've got to do is just come in and lay your carpets. And it wasn't like that at all. When I came into the house, I had to clear out all the workmen's gear, drain pipes, tiles. All of the first phase neighbours were just making a trip outside and just dumping everything, boxes, coats, all the rubbish that was left in the house. And then once I'd chipped all the cement off the floor in every room, I started noticing things that were wrong with the house. The toilet in the ensuite was flushing boiling water. I had to hold on to the side in the ensuite shower to actually get into it because it was that high up, which I later found out they'd fitted the pipes above the floor instead of putting the pipes under. So the whole ensuite had to be ripped out and all replaced, redone. And this is after I'd moved in with all new carpets down, all my furniture in. The doors didn't fit properly. The plasterwork was horrendous. I had to have the walls and the ceilings re-skimmed, so there was just dust sheets everywhere.
What the developers always say with new houses are, if you have some issues, we come and fix them. So was it a case of you had some issues, they came round, it was sorted?
They did eventually come round, but because they were meeting deadlines with getting the second phase houses, third phase houses, we never saw anyone for about 3 months.
What did it feel like when you came into that? Just if you can picture it for the first time, just walking in and seeing what it was like.
Heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. I genuinely thought I'd been hoodwinked out of my money. I'd signed the contract, they'd all been exchanged, everything was in place, the house was mine, and I just didn't want it. I wanted my money back. It just had such a mental impact on me that I ended up losing my job. The stress of it all. I was heartbroken, absolutely heartbroken.
At what point down the road did you start to feel like this was actually a home, or do you feel like that now?
No. Because every day I get up, there's always something that I see and I think, it's got to a point now where I just can't be bothered with it.
Yeah, so Lisa says that she's ended up just too worn down to complain about issues anymore.
It's sad that, isn't it? You get all excited, you save up, you buy a new house, and then it doesn't feel like a home anymore.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we contacted Persimmon Homes as well, and Mark Cook, who's the regional manager for the northwest part of there, said that we always work with our customers to address outstanding issues. We take our customer service extremely seriously and are wholeheartedly committed to resolving any issues that arise, and that he'd always urge customers who have concerns to contact our customer care team directly.
Now, you mentioned before that these little the little snagging lists are quite common. What about these sort of bigger issues?
Yeah, well, in many cases, it's worth saying, new build and new homes, things go pretty well. There are often some snags, but they're resolved quickly.
Yeah.
There has been this recent independent survey that does make for more worrying reading. The New Homes Review recently found that 9 out of 10 people who bought homes in the last 12 months said there were defects, so that includes that sort of snagging list.
Right.
So the vast majority of people will have issues, but they'll be resolved. But 1 in 4 said those problems weren't dealt with quickly, and around a third of new homeowners said they didn't think the new house was good value for money. There have been other high-profile examples across the country recently as well. There was one home in Worcestershire that was in the news recently that had 364 defects that needed fixing. So your snagging list went on for pages and pages and pages.
That's more of a novel than a list, isn't it? Yeah. So I suppose what can be done about it if you're in this situation? Who do you go to for help?
Yeah, so this is what the Stretford and Urmston MP Kate Green's trying to change, and we'll speak to her a bit later on. Some of the ideas that they're looking at here is maybe allowing buyers of new houses to inspect the property before the sale goes through. Yeah. So, instead of just sort of getting the keys and be stuck with it, you don't have to actually go through with it until you've seen the house. Also, maybe allow buyers to keep around 2.5% of the purchase price back for the first 6 months.
Right.
So there's a proportion of what you're going to pay which you don't pay unless you're entirely happy with it after 6 months. That basically would encourage developers to get snagging lists fixed quickly.
Yeah, to obviously get the money back. Yeah.
The government say they support bringing in a new homes ombudsman to deal with complaints more quickly, but there's been no sort of indication that these wider plans are going to be taken on anytime soon.
I was watching the Martin Lewis Money show last night, and he always recommends an ombudsman because they're completely independent, aren't they? So the complaint comes to them from both sides, and then they make a decision. Yeah. So that's probably quite a good idea. Like Matt said, we're going to be speaking to the Stretford MP Kate Green a little bit later on about how she thinks the law needs to change to better protect home buyers. We'll be speaking to her just after 8 o'clock this morning. Matt, thank you very much. We'll speak to you in a little bit.